Hi knitters, welcome to episode 137 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. My email is Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. And I am Knitty McPurly over on Instagram. I'm drinking coffee this morning out of my cup sent to me by my friend Therese, Knit One, Pray One. She's Colby's Little Flowers over on Etsy if you need one of these mugs. I don't know how we got here, you guys. It is the end of July. Like, it is the 23rd of July. Oh, man. It feels like the summer has just flown by. But you know, the good thing about the summer is that it's really the pre-season of knitting, right? Like, we're in the thick of the pre-season. Some people embrace the pre-season and focus on all the sweaters that they want to wear in the fall and getting the socks and the hats and all the things done so that when that cold weather hits, they are ready to go. And then other people embrace the summer knitting, such as this Diggery T, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. Okay, progress in shop news. Look at that. We came to it rather quickly. The Diggery T test knit is about to start, and it's going to be quick because it's a pretty quick pattern. And the pattern, as of right now, I'm planning to have out on September 1st. It is a fingering weight t-shirt, and it uses between 2 and 4 skeins. Smallest size uses 2 skeins of, most fingering weight skeins. It's in the 450 yards-ish. I think it's written for the Freetown, which I think is 428. So it's a little bit fewer, but still you only need 2 skeins for the smallest size and 4 skeins for the biggest size. So yeah, I am wearing my second one. My first one still does not have the label in it. And I do have a little, I stuck a piece of yarn in there. It's just attached. I'll pull it out once I get the actual tag in there. But the first one I made out of Freetown fingering. And this is the one from these pictures that Gigi very kindly took for me. So Freetown is a really amazing yarn. And I mean, that's just the one that I have. You can find yarns like this from lots of different dyers and yarn companies, but it is a single ply, organic, non-superwash. And as a result, I did not get a lot of stretching when I blocked it. So, I love the way the Freetown one fits. This is the second one, and it fits a little bit differently because I used a different yarn. I did not swatch. Isn't it so cute? I just love it. I did not swatch. I just winged it, and this one stretched a little bit more. So I did not go back and measure the gauge on this one. I could do that, but one thing that's different, another thing, in addition to the yarn differences, because like I said, Freetown, and this is Frankfurt, which is like a sock yarn striped with Stockholm Surrey silk, which is a lace weight. So on the Freetown one, and don't look too closely because my Kitchener skills are not perfect and the camera shows every imperfection, but I Kitchenered this one, and theoretically, you have a totally seamless look from front to back, because the sweater is knit from the bottom up in the round up to here. And then you knit the front, and then you knit up to here and up to here, and you do the same in the back. And then you pick up the neck and pick up the sleeves. So when you get here, you have a choice. You can either do a seamless, and if you're like me, it's, but maybe you're amazing at Kitchener. You get a seamless look with the Kitchener stitch, or you can do a 3-needle bind off. It's kind of hard to see, and it's not perfect. I didn't really think about these stripes coming together perfectly. I just didn't think about it, but you could do it if you were motivated to do that. I wasn't really, but I still love the way it looks. I just think this one came out a little bit better, but it's different. The front and the back are knit differently to accommodate the drop in the front. So the front neck is lower than the back neck, and it makes it sit really well. So another thing that's interesting about this sweater is that I use the same needle size throughout. It's typically done where the ribbing is done in a smaller needle, but I didn't want too much pull in. So I have directions on the neck where I say, try it on before you pick up the stitches and see how the neck fits. Because if you want to pull it in a little bit, you can pick up fewer stitches, you can go down a needle size, but I did not do that. I just used the same size 3 needle all around. And you can see even here, it does kind of come in just a little bit. So I am so, so happy with it. And it is incredibly comfortable. It doesn't itch. It's pure comfort. Like, oh my gosh. The Surrey silk and the Frankfurt fingering are just very, very non-itchy. I really want to make another one. Now that I have this one and I'm wearing it and it feels like air and it's warm but not hot. I'm actually a little cold today. I don't know why. It was cold in church. It's cold in my house. And I think it's, I don't know, I was outside. You think I would have paid attention. Yesterday was beautiful. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful yesterday. I was outside today. I swear I just didn't notice. I can be a little unobservant when I'm focused, you know, like I get tunnel vision for something. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to say about this is that for my stripes, I change the color every 4 either rounds in the bottom or rows at the top. So I just did 4 of the color that I wanted and then I switched to the next color. But you can do it however you want. I know some people in the test are talking about striping it. Directions for stripes are not given, but obviously it's very easy. I did carry the yarn up the side. Let's see, yeah. I carried the yarn up the side there. And I don't really think, you can see the jog a little bit, but you don't see the yarn carried. So it depends on how big your stripe is, whether or not you want to carry it or if you want to end up with a lot of ends. And I still ended up with a lot of ends to weave in. But I'm so happy with it. I really am I just love it. I'm going to be wearing this all the time. So, okay, moving on to Advent Calendar pre-orders. The number of Advent Calendar pre-orders left is in the teens. And it worries me because I know I have 100% certainty that this will happen. Where after they sell out, I'm going to get not just a couple, probably going to get a lot of emails over the next few months. Did I miss it? Oh no, are you going to make any more? And I'm going to be like, oh, and it's going to make me feel bad every time. But the ones that are there, that's all I'm doing. So if you want an Advent calendar, go get one because they will not last. The Advent calendar this year is shaping up to be my most fun Advent calendar yet. We're going to do 10 gram minis, DK weight, and we are making adorable, cute knitted things that are ornaments and you can hang on the tree. And I would like to have everything you need in the box. So it's like a kit, essentially. You are pre-ordering an awesome kit with a mystery knit along and all the yarn to make the things. I had a lady tell me that she bought it for her daughter to make the little toys for their granddaughter. I don't know, granddaughter? I don't really remember that part, but like you can totally do that. They're essentially little toys that you can hang on the tree or you can do whatever with them. So it's going to be really, really fun. So don't miss it because there's only a few left. Okay. Other stuff that's in the shop that I don't want you to miss. What color is this June? June's color of the month. I have 3 skeins of Warsaw worsted, which I dyed because Alexis wanted me to. And so then I had a couple extra. And yeah, so go get those. I don't normally have the color of the month in worsted, but I do for June. There's a couple skeins in there, so go look at that. July's color of the month is still in the shop. This is it in Dubrovnik DK. It's Bougie, Fantine, Roxette, and Trinket. The Fantine is in speckle form, so it's a little bit more subtle. Roxette is really the star here. But next month is August, which means it's going to be the last of the bright summery colors. So you can see that for summer, I went bright and summery. And next month, August is going to be the last one of those. And then after that, we're going to get into the moodier fall colors, which I'm also really looking forward to. It's just fun after fun. Also, there are a few more Shopiversary sets. So these are available. This is Frankfurt Fingering, and this is Kiev DK. And there's a couple more left. I made a lot. Probably I made too many, but whatever. Go get them if you're interested. They're 50-gram mini skeins. So that's 250 grams. Did I write out how many yards that is? I should have done that. So it's about 500 yards of DK, and it's a lot. 2 times 5, about 1,000 yards of fingering weight. So that's a lot. Also, I was able to pop a few more of the summer balms into the shop. The cute, I love packaging. Packaging is so fun, but there's only a couple of these left. And when they're gone, they're gone. So you'll have to wait, unless you want unscented. There's unscented balms in the shop too, but you have to wait till fall for another scented balm if you want that. All right. I also this week got my kit from Wool Warehouse in the UK. Oh, I forgot about these things. I wanted to tell you that I ended up, the kit was £31.50, and I paid £4.99 in shipping. So, you know, in American dollars, it's like $42. Like, it was just a really, really good deal for this kit coming from the UK. And I was really happy with it. Now, there's an option. When Julie talked about it in her podcast, Julie of the Knitty Cats, she showed it in this big organza bag. And I know what happens to organza bags in my house. I have a hoarder. My 8-year-old girl just loves anything pretty, and she just has to have it. And so I'm like, let's just forego the organza bag, because you can say I don't need the bag. But then when I got all of the balls of yarn, I'm like, well, what do I do with them? What am I going to keep them in? Because they're kind of big. And so I just stuck them in this bin. But these are, let's see if I can make them so that you can see the colors. There's a lot of pretty colors left, because frankly, what I've started on is more boring colors. But I think this palette is really pretty, although the ones that I've started with are just a little bit boring. I hate to complain, but I worked on this at the swim meet yesterday. So this is the start of the blanket. And this brings me to my first discussion of Lifelines. And that is Tara from Arkansas. Hi, Tara. So I got this pattern with my kit from the Wool Warehouse, and you have to select the one that says with printed pattern to get the pattern. Otherwise, you have to go find a pattern. But it's in British, and British crochet is different from American crochet. Here's what I learned. Like here it says, so you chain on the cast on, the chain on. Then it says, starting in 4th chain from hook, work 1 triple crochet into each stitch along. Chain 3 and turn, work 1 triple crochet into each stitch along and fasten off. And I'm like, what does into each stitch along mean? And what does fasten off mean? And that was just my not knowing how to read a crochet pattern. And Tara told me what that means. And it was so simple. But the most important thing that Tara told me is that when the British people say triple crochet, what we call that in America is double crochet. That's a big difference. And it actually makes sense, because if you're working a double crochet stitch, there are 3 pull-throughs. So it makes sense to call that a triple crochet. And when I said that to Gigi, she said, but Mom, there's 2 stitches. Every time you do it, there's 2 loops on the hook. So I don't know, whatever. But it was really helpful to me. Thank you, Tara, so much. She had emailed me before and volunteered crochet help, because I'm kind of clueless about it. And she was just so helpful. So into each stitch along, now that I say it and now that I know what it is, it seems kind of obvious. Basically, you're just leaving a gap and then you crochet into each one, do a double crochet. And fasten off means you break the color and you just pull it through to go on to the next color. So anyway, that's my first talk about Lifelines. But yeah, these colors, the first 4 colors are just a little bit not exciting. So there's right here, this part is just double crochet. And then here, this is actually really fun. You just alternate this and this all through the blanket with the different colors. But here you're just skipping 2 stitches and then doing 3 double crochets into the same stitch. And then you do it up here opposite, so it looks kind of like a bridge. But the yarn is acrylic yarn that's not hand dyed. Like it's, you know, it's all the same color. So this is the next color, I think. It's all the same. It has no variations. It has no speckles. Am I spoiled? It's possible. So it's just, it's fun. It'll be more fun when the colors get a little bit more fun, but that is that. I'm super happy with the kit, super happy with many, many aspects of it. It's going to be a very easy care blanket, which I'm going to give to my college student. She's still in high school, but I figure if I give myself a year, right? Because this will be like a project that I work on for a little bit and then put away, but I have a year before she goes that I'll have to give it to her. Another thing that Tara told me about is Graphgans. Do you remember last week when I was like, somebody please tell me what a Graphgan is? Tara sent me these pictures of Graphgans that she made for her kids. And we've got the symbol of the Resistance, Star Wars Resistance, and then we have the Stormtrooper helmet. So it's like, you know, it's like the good versus the evil, right? I'm gonna guess, Tara has boys, I think. Maybe one is for one boy and one is for the other boy. Maybe got a little tension in the force happening at Tara's house. But basically a Graphgan is where you crochet a big picture into the blanket. So that sounds really cool. I guess you use a graph, that would make sense. Be like a knitting chart. Finally, I wanted to give you an update on the shoe painting. I was worried that maybe I went off topic a little too much, but after reading your comments, I realized you guys love the shoe thing. It was a really fun project and I recommend it. Now that we're out a week, a little bit, just a few things that I'll mention to you in case you ever want to do this with your kids or your grandkids or you want to recommend it. Leather paint is the way to go. I used an acrylic multi-surface paint, and let me tell you what's wrong with that. There was cracking in the shoe. I'm just gonna put a couple pictures here of my shoes where you can see where, as you're walking, where the creases happen, the paint cracked a little bit. And that wouldn't happen with leather paint, I don't think. So also on the tongue of the shoe, just where it rubs when I'm walking, it's not a big deal. I think I can probably fix it. I've thought about a couple different ways to fix it, but these are my favorite shoes. I absolutely love them. I have worn them like every day since the paint has been dry. So while the paint did come off the shoes in some places, and I didn't like that, because it's not regular acrylic paint, like regular acrylic paint, if you get it on something, you can wait for it to dry and you just scrape it off. But this paint is not like that. It's multi-surface paint. So we painted on the deck table outside, which luckily is, you know, it's a very old table. But still, I kind of wanted it without paint on it, but it's really hard to get it off. So while it cracks on the shoes, it's really hard to get off any other surface if you don't wipe it off immediately. Like you cannot let that stuff dry or you will be out there scrubbing it to try and get it off. So just so you know, that is the follow-up on that. Okay, topic of the week. Lifelines. So I was inspired by our talk last week about lifelines in the lace weight stole. I thought about bringing up a paper bag because it's just, oh, whew. Anyway, I thought about lifelines, talking about that. And I was thinking about how we're all there for each other and how nice that is to be able, when you don't know how to work something or you don't know what to do, to have a friend, a knitting friend out there. And a lot of times Google can be our knitting friend. Like if you don't know how to do the Kitchener stitch, Google that. You don't know how to do a 3-needle bind off to get an exposed seam like this, Google it. Google will be there for you. If your pattern is very specific, like when I was looking at this pattern, the reason I reached out to Tara is because I'm like, I can't Google this. Like, it's not Googleable. What does it mean when it says into each stitch along? Because I wasn't sure if it meant before, like, because you were skipping some. Anyway, it was great to have Tara as a lifeline. But I also wanted to talk about lifelines in a more tangible way, because last week we talked about the lace weight stole that Rachel was knitting. And Rachel sent me this picture of it, and it looks kind of exactly like you would imagine, right? Lace weight yarn in a lace pattern that is just so delicate. Oh man, and I think I see a furry friend in there. This must be a very trusted furry friend after what happened that one time. So Rachel sent me a follow-up and she said, I do know what lifelines are and I did consider using one. However, I had a terrible time ripping back my work the first couple of times because the yarn wanted to keep getting stuck on itself. I actually wound up sacrificing yarn each time I had to start over, although not too terribly much. It was a little heartbreaking, but I guess that's just the nature of this yarn, as it's non-superwash, which I don't normally knit with. The whole project has been one huge learning curve, from learning the stitch pattern, designing something I was happy with, and understanding the limitations of non-superwash lace weight yarn. So it does look, I can't tell if it has a halo or not, but just by virtue of it being so thin, and it doesn't look like a single ply, it looks like maybe a plied yarn, I get that it would stick to itself. I actually had the same problem with the Surrey silk. So the reason this Diggery T took me so long, brief aside, is that it went in the naughty corner because I wasn't done designing the pattern and I had done it incorrectly, so I had to rip it back. And this Stockholm Surrey silk is also a lace weight, and it has a halo, and so it does tend to stick to itself. But I am wondering if you could put a lifeline in that is something like fishing line, where it's a stiffer plastic thread that would not get stuck. Because I think if you could put in something like that, like a thicker fishing line type of lifeline, that might work great for this project, because it would take you back to a place where you're not ripping out the whole thing, and it would not get involved in the rip back yarn loss. Just a thought. Sorry I didn't introduce this part on the face part of the podcast, but I just wanted to show you, in case you have never put a lifeline in or never heard of a lifeline, wanted to show you what it is and how to do it. So now I have big giant needles here and big fat worsted weight yarn. And so this is going to be super easy. If you're doing this on a lace weight project, it's going to be more difficult. But I just wanted to give you the idea. Now this is an interchangeable needle, and it has a hole right there. Can you see it? And just so that you could see it, this is a single ply of embroidery floss, and I put that through there. Now I would recommend, if you're going to actually put in a lifeline, using like a fishing line. I think fishing line would be the best choice because it's not going to stick to the yarn and it's very easy to thread through that hole. So what I'll do then is just knit across my few stitches like that. Happy little stitches. And now, you know, if it were bigger, it would obviously go by itself, but there you slide it down and you have placed your stitches on your lifeline. Okay, now that it's in there, you can take it out of the hole and you have your stitches on a thread in case it gets ripped out by a dog or some other thing. Now, if you're using an interchangeable needle that has this hole, you are in luck. I noticed that my fixed chow goos do not have a hole. So in that instance, I think the best thing to do, so I'm going to pop that out of there because we don't really need it. This is just illustrative anyway. The only other way that I can think of to put in a lifeline, if you don't have a hole, is to thread a piece of your string onto a yarn needle, and then you just pick it off one stitch at a time. And this would work even with a lace project. I think that this would work. And then you just do that, and you have your stitches on your lifeline. This also works if you need to put your stitches on something so that you can try your garment on. Like if you're knitting a sock on a 9-inch circular, you can't put your foot in that while it's on the needle. So if you put it on something like this to keep it on hold, then you can try it on. But I thought, what is the origin of the word lifeline? And it's exactly what you would think. It dates back to around 1700, and it's when, you know, people were in the water and you had to throw them a rope, and you would literally, like, it would save their life, and it was a line of rope that would save their life. Now, this was not used in a figurative sense until 1860, meaning such as like with Tara being my lifeline, you know, me reaching out to her and saying, hey, what do I do here? How do I read this pattern? So I thought that was interesting. Look at this little graphic. I'm going to try, it's a long and skinny picture, so you might not be able to see the whole thing. But if you go to etymology.com, it tracks the trends of words. And this is the trend of the word lifeline in written publications. Obviously, it's impossible to track spoken language, but in publications, this word was not used very often up until 1900. 1880, it starts to kick up. As soon as it becomes figurative, it starts to kick up. 1880, 1900, and 1940, right around World War II, is the peak. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Because you would be talking about lifelines during World War II. Wow. Super interesting. Okay, moving on to your comments. Janet Roberson says, hello from Mounds, Illinois. Hi, Janet. I knitted a blanket for my granddaughter when she went to college in her school colors, and she has since graduated with honors and on the dean's list all 4 years. She is an MRI technician at a major hospital. That is awesome, Janet. Hopefully knitting a blanket for your college-age daughter as they go to college, that's like the recipe for getting that life outcome. Because hopefully that will happen for my daughter too. It will. She's that kind of kid. Dilly Dahlia says, yay, Washington. Love the mug. I had my Washington mug last week. I actually looked for my Arkansas mug today, Tara. And one of my kids has put it somewhere because it's not in the cabinet, or it's up too high. It's put away wrong. It's put away wrong is like the #1 reason why stuff gets lost. Anyway, Dilly Dahlia says, you had me laughing out loud when you started describing knitting lace yarn with tiny needles. And then when you got to the part where Rachel accidentally pulled the needle out of her knitting, I felt like I needed a paper bag to breathe into. Amazing story. It was an amazing story. And I really feel like we all did that, like, oh, and because we've all been there. You've all had that moment where the toddler comes up and grabs it and laughing runs away with the knitting. And in my experience of that, it was not lace weight yarn and tiny needles in a lace pattern. It was just ribbing. So we've all had that happen, and just can't even imagine. Selfish Knitter says, in Father's defense, Foosh sounds like a very fun name for a hot pink. It kind of does. I have a hot pink and it already has a name, but if I do another one, maybe I'll call it Foosh. The shoes look amazing. What a fun family project. It totally, totally was. For kids' shoes, see, it's a double-edged sword because you want a lot of paint. And so, getting the cheaper multi-surface paint was pretty good, but the leather paint would work a little bit better. So Susan Smith says, the shoes looks like such a fun family craft. Love your Awaken sweater. Thank you so much, Susan. Elizabeth DeYoung says, thanks for another great episode, Devin. The shoe painting is so fun. It reminds me of a pair of sneakers I colored with Sharpie markers when I was in 8th grade. I love those sneakers and wore them everywhere. That is how we all feel about our shoes, except Alexis. She's kind of a perfectionist. And so when hers cracked, she lost momentum. So maybe, you know what I was thinking about doing to fix the cracks is kind of going over just the parts that are cracking, just really that front part, sanding it down a little bit and getting a leather paint and just redoing it in leather paint. I think that might work. Lefty Crochets and Mirror Knit 9841 says, great episode. Graphgans are a type of crochet color work for putting an image into the blanket by changing colors within the rows. The images can be as simple or as complex as a recreation of the Jaws movie poster. Oh, that would be amazing. She says, yes, that's an actual Graphgan pattern. Terry at the Yarn Joy podcast has several tutorials on this technique. I will link all that stuff below. A podcast you might want to check out is the Pen, Hook, and Needles podcast. It is hosted by a Catholic mother-daughter duo from Virginia, and they have been on YouTube for over 10 years. How are they not my best friends? Oh my gosh. Allison F. Oster, or maybe Allison Foster. Sorry, Allison. Allison Foster 7566 says, thank you for taking your valuable time to send out your videos. Thank you so much for appreciating that. I really appreciate you appreciating that. Your awakened sweater is beautiful. I am excited about the hope of a Murdog pin. It's still in the works, but it's coming. My shop-iversary yarn is on the way to my house. I ordered my advent calendar. This is already a good week and it's only Sunday. I hope you have a good week as well. You guys, I had an amazing week. It was great. Can I tell you why? Brief aside. At the end of the school year, I got hit. My car was hit by a kid at school, hit and run. Okay, one of the kids at school, I'm sitting in the car, all right? I know as it's happening that this poor 18-year-old girl thought she could make it and she couldn't. And she just sideswiped my car. So I wait for her to pull over and she didn't pull over. Well, luckily it was at school and school had let out. There were kids everywhere, tons of witnesses. I was at her doorstep within 2 hours with my husband. And so anyway, that's crazy, right? My car, finally the parts came in to get it fixed. It was just body work. It was no big deal. It was just totally not a big deal. But my car was in the shop for a week. And that's why my week was so amazing. Because it was like, oh, I can't go run those errands. I don't have a car. It was so relaxing. Oh, we're going to miss morning swim because I don't have a car. Whew. Put your car in the shop and you'll have a good week. Marge Kemp F 9586 says, I love the Knitty Cats. I know, right? Thank you for introducing her. I love the sweater you're wearing. I think I need that pattern and your shoe project was great. It is the Awakened sweater. You can go get it on my website. Elaine N. Stone 6834 says, great addition today. Elaine lives in the UK, by the way. I really admire Rachel's perseverance. I doubt I would have kept going, even if I started a project on that scale. Addict24 is an amazing lady who lives in the north of England and produces a blog full of photos. The photos are of the area she lives as well as her crochet. She has great instructions and patterns on this blog, and that's who my pattern is from. Her kits are sold through the Wool Warehouse based in Leamington Spa. The dollar to pound exchange, as well as your US postage rates, prevent me from buying your yarn as often as I would like. I totally get it. The July 4th yarn arrived safely within a week and is very precious to me. I will knit socks to wear on St. George's Day and other British celebrations, as well as on the 4th of July to honor your special day. That is awesome because we're sister countries, right? We both have the red, white, and blue. The Republic of Me said, Dear Devin, it was so heartwarming to watch your family shoe project, and it brought me back to a moment in time about 15 years ago when I made a mosaic table with my older son. This story is a tearjerker. I'm just warning you ahead of time. He was not even 4 then and still recovering from being hit by a car when he was 2.5. Even though the physical injuries were long healed, the trauma remained, and apart from losing his speech, He couldn't focus on anything for more than a couple of minutes. So I bought a small wooden kids table from IKEA and a bunch of mosaic tiles. I totally have that table. Every day we would sit outside. I would put a line of glue on the table, and sitting opposite of each other, we would both place one tile from each side until we met in the middle. It took us a couple of months to complete the project, but he was so proud of it and I of him. We still have the table, by the way, and I thank you for making me remember of those few spring months. He is all well, recovered and grown up now, doing national service at the moment and starting university in September. I know that this is not a knitting story, and I don't tend to leave such a long comment, but I thought you might want to know that you have unknowingly touched me and put a smile on my face. Lots of sunny regards and blessings from Cyprus, Ivana. Where is Cyprus? Now I need to go look that up because I don't even know. Thank you so much for that wonderful comment, Ivana. That is such a great story. I'm so glad that it made you think of that, maybe because we were working outside, which I'm really glad we did because the paint was a mess. Okay, last comment is from Ruth Ann Bull. Great podcast. Wow, 5 pairs of shoes. I love it. Thanks for the remind about the advent calendar. Just ordered it and I'm ready to begin, LOL. I just finished a sweater a week ago Friday, only to cast on another one on Thursday. Ruth Ann gets a lot done. Both are summer sweaters, and that's what's crazy. I found another pattern and I want to cast on another. I need to slow down. Have a great week and can't wait to hear about your adventures next week. Awesome. Thank you so much to all of you who left comments on my podcast. Okay, knitting fantasies. Since we are in the pre-season of knitting, I thought I would do a couple knitting patterns that are very pre-season because they are all in super bulky. So I went on Ravelry and I looked at what was popular right now, and there wasn't anything interesting to me. So I went on Etsy and I came across Brenda Made This, and she's adorable. All of her pictures are really cute. Like, they're very kind of intentionally dorky, which I really like. Like, she's often holding coffee or like in the midst of a deep belly laugh. Like, they're just really cute pictures. And so I was drawn to her. She is a Canadian knitwear designer, and she has a lot of knits in super bulky, which knit up super quick. So that's really fun. So I picked a sweater, a vest, and some mittens to show you. But she has a lot of patterns. If you like her style, it's very youthful. If you're knitting for a teenager, especially like on the younger end, like Gigi is about to be 14 and Gigi would love all of these things. Alexis, who's about to be 18, I feel like is kind of aging out of this style. So anyway, my first pick is called the Seasons of Change Jumper, and it is inspired by the fall because the sleeves are a leaf pattern in fall colors. So it is in English, comes in 6 sizes, is knit in super bulky on 12 millimeter needles, which I believe is a US size 17. So I don't know how many skeins of St. Petersburg super bulky you would need to make this, but it would probably be a lot. It's, you know, a yarn, like a hand dye, I would tend to use on a smaller project, like the mittens I'm about to show you. They would be great for that, or scraps even. But if you go to the craft store, such as Hobby Lobby, they have tons of bulky yarn, and it's at a really, really great price point. My next pick is the Zero to Hero mitts, which I'm sure we could make in an afternoon. These are just cute, really, really cute, so simple, looks like they're made using scraps, would be really warm, and would totally get the mitten job done while being very, very cute. I think if I were going to make these mitts, I would probably set up, I'm not sure how many different, I'm not looking at the pattern right now. I know I just showed it to you, but I'm not looking at it. I don't know how many different colors of yarn that is. Geez, let me pull it up. How many colors does she use? I think I would get a couple skeins. Oh, it's a lot. So it's like 5 or 6 colors. I would get a couple skeins of yarn and make a bunch of pairs of mittens. Wouldn't that be awesome? And give those as gifts? That's a great idea. If you have young people, especially young people to knit for, this would be a great choice. Her patterns are, I want to say they're a little pricey, but they're probably in Canadian dollars. If it's $10 in Canadian dollars, it's, you know, on par with what other patterns cost. All right, finally, my last pick is the Happy Hygge vest. Hygge. This word was super popular a few years ago, and I can't remember how to say it now. Hygge. Hygge. I don't know. Anyway, it's a really cute vest. I love it. It's super bulky. It would work up really fast. It has no sleeves, so you wouldn't get too hot. You can wear something under it. Really, really cute. If you like this kind of knitting, Brenda made this over on Etsy. I will link everything down below. All right, I don't really have a knitting story for you today, so I'm gonna bring you a little segment called Crochet with Gigi / Attack of the Mallards. Here's that.
I made a mallard. And another one. And 3 more. I made these all yesterday. And
this is pretty epic.
And now I'm going to make a big mallard, and I'm going to call him Jerry, king of the mallards, slayer of all inferior ducks.
Are these the inferior ducks?
No, he slays. He's going to be a big mallard. Oh. Jerry, king of the mallards, slayer of all other inferior ducks.
Like non-mallards.
Like non-mallards are inferior ducks. Therefore, he slays them.
So these have been crocheted, and you used a pattern, right?
Yes. Oh, right. I've got to get
We will link the pattern below. So it's a funny story because Gigi and I were at church, and she said that she wanted to make a mallard because she watched a 3-second video on the internet, and then she needed an army of mallards. That's what happened.
It's a militia.
So then we're leaving church, and Dad's at home looking at the clock going, why aren't they home yet? So he gets on his phone and sees that we're at Hobby Lobby.
And he calls her, and it's accidentally on speaker, and I hear the accusing, where are you?
So, what you doing?
Yeah.
So we were at Hobby Lobby, and we bought this chenille yarn. Do you remember what it was called?
Which one's the cutest? I like him.
I can't tell the difference.
He's pretty cute. Yeah. He's also cute.
They're all really adorable.
He's the first one I made.
So
the fat one's my favorite.
I think that it's like an Aran weight. Is that right? Was it Aran weight? I think it was Aran weight. Although we looked at a million.
It was like
yarns.
Small-ish, fuzzy-ish yarn.
Small-ish, fuzzy-ish. That's
so,
its official designation.
You go to a store, you're like, hi, I need small-ish, fuzzy.
They'll know. They'll just point you right to this.
Right to this.
But anyway, it's like a chenille, and yeah. So we're now awaiting a large mallard. Jerry, slayer of other ducks. What was it?
How dare you insult him by getting his title wrong.
He doesn't exist yet.
Jerry, king of the mallards, slayer of inferior ducks.
That's awesome.
Mallards! I don't think we've said mallard more than we've said yesterday.
We said mallard a lot yesterday. It was a lot of mallard talk.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye from the mallards. Wait.
All of them. The family.
Yay,
bye!
Family. So my final segment today is going to be another on the fly segment called From My Inbox. I got a wonderful email from a podcast watcher named Pam of the Yarny Goodness podcast. Hi, Pam. She also goes by Stitches and Prayers. So Yarny Goodness, Stitches and Prayers, that's all Pam. So go subscribe to her podcast. Go check it out. I'll link it below if you haven't already seen it. And she said, I'm the podcaster that you mentioned in your video a couple weeks ago. I'm on my way to 100 subscribers. Now, she sent this to me a couple weeks ago, so she might already be there. And she sent this to me in regards to my advent calendar where we're going to be knitting ornaments. She said, for years now, I've been crocheting the ornaments for my tree. From the angel on the top to the tree skirt, the only thing not crocheted are the lights, pine cones, and poinsettias. It's taken me around 7 years to get to this point, and I'm running out of room on the tree. So I'll just put pictures of it as I'm talking. Now you can see Pam has my favorite kind of Christmas tree. It's a tall, skinny tree. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It goes all the way to the ceiling, but it doesn't have a ton of room for ornaments. So I told my husband, like, this year we're going to get another tree because we just need more space for ornaments. She says, I will attach some pictures. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much for these pictures, Pam. she has really crocheted a lot of ornaments. How fun is that? Your tree too can be covered. In this case, they'll be knitted ornaments, but they are going to be very bright, very colorful, and very cute. Like I said, this graphic that I made for the Advent calendar, I designed the graphic to embody the spirit of the calendar. Cute, sweet, quirky, adorable ornaments for the Christmas tree. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you here next week. Have a wonderful week, knitters. I hope you get a lot of knitting time today. Bye.